Discussed about IBS, the symptoms that come with IBS, and of course, what we can do to prevent. But we really didn't. Hi, this is Cosmic Mike, and we discussed IBS a few days ago. We talked about the symptoms and how it can happen, and the different types of symptoms. So today, I thought we'll discuss about how we can remedy those symptoms or help prevent those symptoms, especially gas, bloating, cramping, constipation, diarrhea, which are I think the three major symptoms that if you have it chronically, you can end up having IBS and inflammation. So, digestive gas bloating basically is a digestive issue where the stomach acid is not strong enough, it's not being produced enough. And it could be many reasons, either you're eating too fast or eating too much at one time or eating fried foods for a long period of time. So a best thing would be, initial thing would be maybe apple cider. Everybody's heard about apple cider vinegar. And that could be something that you could try for sure, having some apple cider with your food, like your salads and stuff. But I would definitely avoid a lot of salads, a lot of raw foods, if you're having continuous gas and bloating. And blood type A's and B's generally have that, where they're producing less stomach acid. And apple cider is one of those things that you can help to make sure you're breaking those foods down properly in the stomach. Drinking with just a warm cup of water, that would be fine, or just sprinkling, or just having a teaspoon in your food itself. One of the best herbs that I've seen that works really well with digestive, and everybody knows is, and very simple, is ginger. Ginger is one of the best things you can take with your meals by cutting some plain ginger and boiling it and steeping it and just having that warm cup of water with or just after your meals if you're having these ongoing gas and bloating kind of issues. So ginger, I like to put fennel. I definitely like some fennel. I just leave some fennel in the pot for a while and just let it cool, and with some ginger, that's one of the best things you can have, fennel and ginger for a digestive. These are bitters, so they break down all your foods properly. That's why you see these in the restaurants. You see a lot of fennel being served, and especially in the Indian restaurants afterwards. And that's what it is. When you chew that, it's very digestive. But especially having it with warm water, it really removes all those nutrients from the herb, from the ginger and the fennel, and gets into that water. And warm water or hot water will break all that mucus down or break all that fat and digest the foods. Just like fire, which is hot, once you put anything towards the fire, it will melt. And that's what you're trying to do, is melt that excessive fat or oil that you've just eaten and kind of flow it through. So that's why I came up with this particular formula that has most of these herbs in there, because everybody doesn't want to make, put ginger, cut ginger and put it in, every time, and if you're at work. So I created a ginger and honey syrup. This is a ginger, just organic ginger with honey. This is my own product, EcoFlow Naturals. You can see on our website. It's called a ginger honey syrup, and you just take a teaspoon, put it with some warm water, with about 2 or 3 ounces of warm water, and drink that with every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner if you have to, or specifically your larger meals, which is where it's causing more of that gas and bloating. And then, of course, I came something a little bit stronger, which is a tincture which you can add to a particular tea. Now this has ginger, peppermint, licorice. It also has genitine and cactus. All these herbs are very essential in breaking that food matter down properly. So these are bitters because they're bitter in taste as such. So they break down the sweet, sour, the pungent taste, and really effectively. So having that with just some water, some tea, even if you don't have, it's good to have a digestive, because as we age, you're not the same as when you're 20, or when you're 50, or when you're 80. So definitely for older people, this is very effective to have in larger meals. Just having that with your meals, having a cup of tea with all these herbs mixed. Cinnamon, nutmeg, you can also mix that in there too. One of the few fruits that I've seen that really helps with the gas and the bloating is papaya. My parents are a big fan of papaya. In Jamaica, we get a lot of papaya. I'm not sure, I don't remember in India if you do, but I'm sure you got on you goes, no, I'm sure they do, of course. But in Jamaica, it's an habit or a habitual thing that we have papaya every day because the weather is tropical throughout the year. So papaya is very warming and very digestive. If you're having gas, bloating, constipation, whatever, you need to do papaya. Papaya with every meal, papaya especially with breakfast and lunch in the morning and in the afternoon, of course, not at night, and having that just room temperature. You know, we buy ours from Trader Joe's. You know, just get a green one. You leave it in the oven, of course, just for a few nights, just for it to ripen, and have that in the morning. It's the best thing to break that mucus, of course, and break that digestive, gas. But of course, it comes in capsules also. Papaya, they come out with these enzymes which are from papaya. So basically, what having the fruit is a big wonder. Let's move on to constipation. I'm sure most of you have gone through constipation. I have, of course. I am that body type, the Vata body type. And of course, when I used to do a high protein diet, that's where you will see a lot more. So constipation is basically there is less hydration, less water, and there is less oil or fats in the system where it's not lubricating the food that's in the colon, so it doesn't pass through properly, or it's very hard for it to move through. And of course, the third is where the IBS comes in, where the muscles are not performing at all. The peristalsis is not happening. So, one of the few things I love to have, my family, my wife loves to have, is first thing in the morning we have a tall glass of hot water. Having that, it kind of pushes everything through, cleanses the film that's formed overnight while you're sleeping. That's normal. And that's the best way before you start your coffee, before you do anything else, or green tea, just to have that hot water. And one at night just before you sleep. Now, we were already having, if you see the Chinese, they have this hot cup of water with every meal. And now they eat more rice, more noodles, more than anybody. But you'll never see them gain any weight. Because the hot water really breaks that mucus down and breaks that fat again down. So water also pushes the food through the colon, and the oil or the ghee, which is should be in your diet too, which kind of lubricates and make sure it's smoothly going through. Now fiber is very essential also because fiber creates the bulk. When the bulk is created in the colon, it extrudes out, and the brain understands, well, there's matter there and we need to evacuate, and that's where it starts using the peristalsis. So that's a really good remedy. Of course, again, having ginger. Once you start having ginger and those phenols, you will not get into the constipation. So you see, one thing leads to the other. So if you're digesting your foods properly, you hopefully will not have constipation. Now, if of course you traveled, you ate out, the fast foods and stuff, you happen to because you eat out. So having triphala. Triphala is one of those things where it's a blend of 3 herbs, an Ayurvedic herb from India. And this is very effective in stimulating those nerves in the colon, the peristalsis, making sure there is peristalsis happening. So it's really effective. It's not like a laxative where you can overdo it. You can have it on long term. It has a lot of other benefits. It's really used to pacify vata, which is constipation, is maybe too much vata. So triphala, 1 at night or 2 at night, very effective. If it's an acute problem where you have constipated for 2-3 days or 4 days straight, or you just came from travel, I would take 6-8. That's the best thing. Now combining that with magnesium. Remember we talked about magnesium in our last episodes, all the different types. So magnesium helps relax your muscles throughout the body. And what it does in the colon, it of course relaxes those muscles. So it's not a laxative, it's not doing anything to peristalsis or the nerves, it's just relaxing those muscles. So what happens if there's enough fiber, enough food to evacuate, it's just going to fall through and it becomes easier. So you don't have to push. So there is much ease movement through the colon. So a combination of these, especially when I'm traveling or when we travel, my wife really likes to take this with her because you eat out if you went out for a week. Very important to have. So taking 2 at night of magnesium and 2 triphala will make sure things are moving properly. And if there's an acute, you can always take more. You're going to take 3 or 4 of the magnesium, or you can take 6 or 8 of the triphala. There is really no side effect. The only thing is the stools will just kind of fall through. It's not like having diarrhea. You're not going to be rushing to the bathroom or anything. It's just helping you ease through. But water and ghee and oil in your diet, or fat in your diet, very important to make sure we're not having, constipation. And of course, diarrhea. Now, diarrhea is, one thing I mentioned earlier was in my last episode, it's something the body doesn't like, and that's why it's trying, pull through. So of course, bacteria infection. Silver, I've used silver a lot. I travel with silver, a sovereign liquid silver. That's very effective. But also, that I came up with my own formula is a charcoal. Charcoal not only gets rid of gas, but it binds to that bacteria, bad or good, and it'll start pulling it through. And it's like a magnet, so it kind of pulls all that material that's in the colon and it'll start flushing through. Charcoal is used in ages for detoxifying, for cleansing, and you can do that on a regular basis. So what I did is I added peppermint to it, so this way the charcoal and the peppermint can work as a digestive aid also, where you can have it with every meal. But if it's very bad, diarrhea, make sure you're hydrating, and you can definitely use the charcoal. I would do it 1-3 times a day. Of course, stop the magnesium, stop the triphala, because that's the opposite. You can definitely, have some binding foods, complex carbs, like just rice and yogurt. It's a great remedy to, stop some of that diarrhea. And if it's really acute, you could do, you can cook 2 apples and add some nutmeg and cinnamon with it to kind of help you, make like an apple sauce, and have that 2-3 times a day, and you'll see the diarrhea, really stops. If there is no apple, you can definitely try the banana. The banana has enough potassium to bind. In the islands, we use a lot of banana for if somebody has bad diarrhea, because that just kind of stops. And then you can figure out what's really happening and why the diarrhea is really going on. But of course, make sure you're hydrating. Now, if the diarrhea continues, 2 or 3 days while trying all these remedies, or 3-4 days, make sure you go to the doctor and check out, see what's really going on. But while traveling, also we travel with the charcoal, got gas, and of course, good probiotics. So those are 2 things to travel. Food poisoning, you ate different foods, you got diarrhea, boom, you take 3 or 4 of these, or maybe up to 6 for a day or 2, everything is back to normal. So those are little quick remedies. I know I was a little fast because I just wanted to cover it quick. 3 main symptoms that occur with IBS: constipation, diarrhea, and of course gas and bloating. So a lot of home remedies, a lot of supplements also, and I've created a lot of these supplements on my own, where I've seen in the 20 years that I've been doing this, learning and kind of tweaking them, putting one thing and combining so it's easier for people to use. So you can check out that on our website, peachvitamins.com. You can go to the shop section and look for EcoFlow, ECO, FLO Naturals. That's my own brand of supplements. If you have any question, please comment, and hope this was helpful. So everybody have a safe and great weekend. We'll see you next week, Monday. Thank you.